The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes outside the restaurant window, each one catching the warm glow of Christmas lights strung along Fifth Avenue. Marcus Holloway checked his watch for the 7th time in 20 minutes. 7:47 p.m. She was 47 minutes late, and the waiter had already passed by, 3 times with that sympathetic look reserved for people who'd been stood up. The other diners were stealing glances, probably wondering why a man in a Tom Ford suit was sitting alone on Christmas Eve, nursing sparkling water while couples around him laughed and clinked champagne glasses. Marcus could feel their pity like a weight on his shoulders, but he didn't move. He wouldn't move. Because unlike what everyone in this restaurant assumed about him, the billionaire tech mogul who'd graced the cover of Forbes twice and could have any woman in Manhattan with a single phone call, Marcus knew what it meant to be late because life wouldn't let you be on time. His sister had set this up, of course. "You need to meet someone real," she'd insisted, cornering him at the family's annual charity gala 3 weeks ago. "Someone who doesn't care about your net worth or your penthouse or your private jet. Someone with actual problems, actual depth." He'd argued naturally. He'd dated plenty, models, executives, socialites, but Maya had waved him off. "You've dated accessories, Marcus. I'm talking about meeting a human being." And somehow, she'd worn him down the way only sisters can, until he'd agreed to this blind date with her friend's cousin, a single mother named Elena Rodriguez who worked as a pediatric nurse in the Bronx. Now, as the clock ticked toward 8, Marcus wondered if Maya had set him up for some kind of lesson in humility. The waiter approached again, this time with barely concealed impatience. "Sir, if you'd like to order—" "I'll wait," Marcus said firmly. Though his pride was beginning to crack around the edges, he pulled out his phone, staring at the single text message he'd received 25 minutes ago. "I'm so sorry. Running behind. Please don't leave." No explanation, no excuse, just a plea that had something desperate in it that made him stay. The restaurant door burst open at 8:03 p.m., bringing with it a gust of freezing wind and a woman who looked like she'd been through a war. She stood in the entrance, breathless and disheveled, her coat soaked through, her dark hair plastered to her face, mascara smudged beneath eyes that were scanning the room with barely contained panic. When those eyes landed on him, and he knew she recognized him from the photo, Maya had shown her. The relief that flooded her face was so profound it actually made his chest tighten. Elena crossed the restaurant in quick, unsteady steps, leaving a trail of melted snow, oblivious to the stares she was attracting. "I'm here," she gasped as she reached the table. "I'm so sorry. I know what this looks like. I know you probably think I'm the most disrespectful person alive, and you'd be right to leave right now. But I just—" She stopped, pressing a hand to her chest as if trying to physically hold herself together. "I couldn't not come." Marcus stood, and for a moment, they just looked at each other, this drenched, frazzled woman and this powerful man who'd waited for her when 99% of people in his position wouldn't have. "Sit," he said softly, pulling out her chair. "You're here now?" The simple kindness of those words seemed to undo something in her. Elena sank into the chair, and he noticed her hands were shaking as she unwrapped her wet scarf. The waiter materialized, his earlier judgment replaced with professional neutrality, and Marcus ordered them both hot tea before Elena could protest. "I need to explain," she started, but he held up a hand. "You don't owe me anything, but I'm listening if you want to share." Something in his face, maybe the genuine patience there, so different from the sharp impatience she must have expected from a billionaire. CEO made her words spill out. "My daughter Sophia, she's 7. I had a sitter lined up for tonight, my neighbor's teenage son, super reliable. But 2 hours ago, Sophia spiked a fever of 103. I'm a nurse, so I knew she'd be okay with medication. But I couldn't just leave her with a teenager who'd panic. I called my mother, but she's in New Jersey with my aunt. I called 3 other friends. Everyone's either out of town for Christmas or with their own families." She paused to accept the tea the waiter brought, wrapping both hands around the cup like it was the only warm thing she'd touched all day. "I finally reached my neighbor. Mrs. Chen, she's 78 but sharp as a tack. She came over, took one look at Sophia, and literally pushed me out the door. Said I deserved one night, one evening to be something other than just a mom. But then the subway broke down. We were stuck in the tunnel for 30 minutes. When we finally moved, I ran 12 blocks in the snow because I couldn't get a cab and I couldn't miss this. Maya talked you up so much and I thought, what if she's right? What if there's actually someone out there who might understand that my life is complicated and messy and full of responsibilities, that don't pause for romance? Marcus found himself leaning forward, completely absorbed. This woman had fought through every obstacle to be here, not because she was desperate for a date with a billionaire, but because she dared to hope for one night of possibility. Your daughter, he said. How is she now? Elena's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected that to be his first question. She pulled out her phone, showing him a text from Mrs. Chen. Fever down to 100. She ate soup. Stop worrying and have fun, mija. A small, exhausted smile crossed Elena's face. She's better. Mrs. Chen is a miracle worker. Sophia is lucky to have a mom who'd run through a blizzard rather than break a promise, Marcus said, and he meant it. My mother raised me and my sister alone after my dad died. I watched her work 3 jobs, miss school events, show up late to everything because she was always putting us first. I learned young that when someone's late, there's usually a story behind it, a real one. The vulnerability that flickered across. Elena's face told him his words had hit home. I don't usually get seen like that, she admitted quietly. People see single mom and they make assumptions. That I'm disorganized or irresponsible or looking for someone to rescue me. Are you? He asked, genuinely curious. Looking to be rescued? God, no. The answer came swift and fierce. I'm looking for someone who gets that I come as a package deal. That I have a daughter who will always be my priority. That I work night shifts sometimes and my schedule is insane. That I can't just drop everything for spontaneous trips to Paris. She stopped, a flush creeping up her neck. Not that I'm sure you're used to women who can just... I'm used to women who treat me like an ATM with a pulse. Marcus interrupted gently. You're the first person in years who fought to show up for a date with me, not for what I could give you, but because you wanted to be here. Do you have any idea how rare that is? They ordered dinner then, and the conversation flowed like they'd known each other for years instead of minutes. Elena told him about her work at the hospital, the children she cared for, the families she supported through the worst moments of their lives. She spoke about Sophia's obsession with dinosaurs and her dream of becoming a paleontologist, about the tiny apartment they shared in the Bronx that barely had room for the Christmas tree Sophia had insisted they needed. Marcus shared things he rarely told anyone, how success had isolated him, how he'd built an empire but sometimes felt like he was living behind glass, watching real life happen to other people. He told her about starting his company in his garage, about the lean years when failure felt inevitable, about how his mother had believed in him even when he couldn't believe in himself. She passed 2 years ago, he said, surprised by the emotion that still caught in his throat. Cancer. I'd give everything I've built for one more Christmas with her. Elena reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. Her palm was warm from the tea, and the gesture was so natural, so free of calculation, that Marcus felt something crack open inside his chest. She'd be proud of you, Elena said softly. Not because of your success, but because you're sitting here on Christmas Eve, giving a late, drenched nurse a chance instead of walking away. Walking away never crossed my mind, he said honestly. From the moment you ran, through that door looking like you'd fought an army to get here, I was all in. The hours evaporated. They talked through dessert, through the restaurant's subtle hints that they were ready to close, through the staff beginning to clean around them. Finally, reluctantly, they stepped out into the night, where the snow had transformed Manhattan into something from a fairy tale. I'll get you a car, Marcus offered, already pulling out his phone, but Elena stopped him. The subway's running again. I'm not far, but she didn't move toward the station. Instead, she turned to face him fully, snowflakes catching in her hair. Thank you for waiting, for listening, for seeing me. When can I see you again? The words came out more urgent than he'd intended. I know your schedule is complicated. I know you have Sophia. I know I'm probably moving too fast. But I need you to know tonight mattered. You matter. Elena's eyes glistened, and he realized she was crying, quiet tears mixing with melting snowflakes. New Year's Day, she said. Sophia and I usually just stay home. Eat black-eyed peas for luck, watch the parades. But maybe, Maybe you could join us? Fair warning. My apartment is the size of your closet. Sophia will talk your ear off about dinosaurs. And I make terrible coffee. Marcus felt his face break into a smile so wide it actually hurt. That sounds perfect. Actually perfect. They exchanged numbers, making plans, neither wanting to say goodbye. Finally, Ellen arose on her toes and kissed his cheek, a gesture so sweet and genuine it made every other romantic moment of his life seem hollow by comparison. Merry Christmas, Marcus. Merry Christmas, Elena. He watched her disappear into the subway station. This remarkable woman who'd crashed into his carefully controlled life like a force of nature. As he walked to where his driver waited, Marcus realized that Maya had been right. He'd needed to meet someone real, someone who understood that the most valuable thing you could give another person wasn't money or status or convenience. It was your time, your presence, your willingness to wait when life made someone late. His phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Sophia wants to know if you like Triceratops. Apparently it's very important. Marcus laughed out loud. Right there on Fifth Avenue, startling a group of carolers. He typed back, "Tell Sophia that Triceratops is objectively the best dinosaur and I'm prepared to defend this position." The response came immediately. "You're hired. See you New Year's Day." As his car pulled away from the curb, Marcus looked back at the restaurant where he'd waited, where patience had been rewarded with something he hadn't even known he was missing. The snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in possibility, and for the first time in years, Marcus Holloway felt like Christmas meant something again, not because of what he had, but because of who he'd found. Someone who ran through snowstorms to keep promises. Someone who loved fiercely and fought daily battles with grace. Someone who'd arrived late, but somehow right on time.